I'm still impressed by some of these models which were made by Nicky Older and his crew. And this was at a time of no motion control. We didn't even have motion control rails. We had to rig it out of scaffolding tubes. And it was interesting. I just tell Nicky what I wanted. He said, no problem. Then one day I walked in his office and found him ordering 6 basic computers. Teeny ones, simple. Today's primitive by today's standards. I said, what are you doing? He said, well, I want one to tell the model to turn left, another to right, the other up, the other down. So he was doing this incredibly basic lash-up, but I think the end result is just still stands up there. It's really good. We shot in and got in close on the Nostromo. Cheated like hell because I was giving it atmosphere. I guess they may have gas. If this would be gas, it wouldn't be atmosphere, it might be gaseous. Here we go, there's a bump. So that's the camera wobbling and the actors complying with the wobble. So I was yanking the camera all over the place. I think this is the first time we're getting into wobbly cameras, so this precursors rock videos.
Dropping off now. Still dropping.
The graphic design I always thought was great because it wasn't over-designed. If you're in a cockpit now of a very sophisticated fighter, it's amazing how basic they are. And I didn't want to go into overkill. I wanted to just to feel raw and real. All this is just the camera. As the Nostromo sinks, it's just a dolly craning up in a smoke room. So none of this is CGI. It's all just literally shot. It always bothered me that the lights underneath, that we couldn't get in a straight line. And that drove me crazy, but eventually we had to shoot. But that model there is only 4 feet long. I think it looks pretty big. I always thought the exhausts were dodgy, so the exhausts are getting blown by the propellers. I'm trying to get the sense of movement of the air around it, or the gas around it. But I guess you can buy it. That leg's about 1 foot across, so. The fire here was, because we were on a pretty tight schedule on this film. I think total schedule was about 12 weeks. So this fire had to be shot in a day. It was a real scramble. But with sound effects and shooting into lights and, of course, the actors, I think we conveyed the sense of chaos. And I love this cut, straight out of it, into let's face the music and see what kind of trouble we're in. Part of the reality was actually, you know, I think in handheld cameras, shooting into lights and things like that, which I'd been doing a lot of in commercials. And I was always an operator, so I just find operating is the best job on the floor. And, you know, if you got your eye to the viewfinder, you know you've got it. Now we have video assist, and therefore it's less necessary, but I still love the process of operating. Because you can invent while you're doing it. And I was always told in early days, actors don't like it if you operate. Well, this is not true, I've discovered. In fact, seems to be a stronger camaraderie and a closer contact, because they feel that you're really, really watching them. And the connection is very strong when you're operating. Again, a great cut from this deafening roar, which on 6-track Dolby is deafening, to almost an ear-popping, air-conditioned silence when you're looking, when you come into the cockpit and and Veronica is reflectively looking out at this unfriendly planet. It's almost as if she knows something. Almost you feel that she is sensing that this is not going to be a good trip.
Well, Mother says the sun's coming up in 20 minutes.
I love Tom Skerritt's laid-back quality when he could play this as a noisy, you know, aggressive, macho pilot, but in fact he's actually almost like Chuck Yeager. Very interesting alphanumerics, gobbledygook. We put on a green and yellow screen rather than black. And all this stuff here where you've got to have Ian Holm as the geologist speculating on the mysterious chemistry of the planet. Great stuff, great acting.
Better break out the weapons.
There's a little shot where we see the scale of the nose, and we see her walk across in the window. The first sign here that Ian isn't necessarily what you think he is. Is he arthritic, or is it something else? Or is years in space have got to his joints? So that was a little suggestion by him, which I thought was great. I said, what a great idea. So there you have an actor really thinking through the whole idea and getting into the notion of the realities of science fact and not science fiction. Love this cockpit. Somehow it's very fascist. This shot here actually is 3 children made in miniature spacesuits that who were my 2 sons and the cameraman's son. I had small costumes made for them so the landing legs look bigger. So if that was an adult, those legs would look half the size, but they're children overcranked. This was shot direct link down below and a camera up on the monitor, and I'm blowing vermiculite through the air, which hurt like hell. So I had to wear goggles and breathing mask because vermiculite is basically chipped up teeny bits of plastic.
Hey, Ripley!
The idea of making the hero a heroine, I think, was a masterstroke, because we truly expect Sigourney probably to be the first one to go, and of course the story is different.
Brett, you're guaranteed by law to get a share.
What?
Why don't you just fuck off?
We had a whole armory of CO2 because, of course, any scientist would look at this and say, what the hell have they got CO2 there for? But I just liked it, so here we use CO2 for the first time. And he switches it off. Just a great dramatic end to the scene. Sigourney was great because she has such presence and authority as the officer who is most likely to irritate, which she really gets up Yaphet Kotto's nose, which was a great kind of subtext. So she's, even here you have, even at this time in the future, you still have the male chauvinism. Clearly we wanted to begin the tension between Sigourney and Ian. Even that exchange is, there's tension in it. There's a subtext there that we don't quite understand, but clearly he doesn't like her and she doesn't like him. We're about to come to the landscape, which is Giger's work, which is, of course, carried out absolutely brilliantly by Les Dilly. It's worth mentioning here that there was a great sculptor that I think we introduced to the film industry called Peter Voisey, who unfortunately has passed away, but was absolutely brilliant. And he worked all the models of the spacecraft, and then worked closely with Les Dilley and eventually worked quite closely with Giga in helping in the process of sculpting. This is on the biggest stage at Shepperton, on H. The stillness, I think, which is underscored by the music, and the plumes from the top of the helmets are great. There's the long shot of the derelict and the very unfriendly, very Giga-esque planet.
Ash, can you see this?
Yes, I can. I've never seen anything like it.
I decided to shoot the view of the spacecraft through a monitor because for financial reasons, our model didn't stand close examination, not of the spacecraft, but in fact of the planet itself. So suddenly it made sense to actually shoot, and I had an old domestic video. We made this up on the day. I got an old domestic camera and filmed everything handheld, like this, just chugged towards the actual model, and then ran it back to the monitor and just filmed it. And then, of course, this linked with the actors' voices, plus their stentorian breathing, and then Ash saying, "Say that again," okay? And then glimpsing this massive Titanic shape worked really great, rather than just, and there we see it through. There we see Peter Voise's model, and those three little characters on the bottom are 1.5-inch high lead soldiers on a little rail working with a little electronic device that makes them go side to side, so you see a sense of movement. But this model of Peter's was really only 4 feet long, but it looks great, still looks great. And I took the drawing for the spaceship off a section of one of Giga's paintings because we couldn't work out what the hell the spaceship was going to look like. And so I was staring at his book Necronomicon, and he'd drawn something up which almost looked like a musical instrument. So I kind of drew around that and said, what about this? It looks like a giant croissant, but actually it worked, you know, like a boomerang. Now he's lost them.